this is part 5 of creating the horizontal dumbbell chart in chartjs 4. So far we have like this here. This works all nicely. Of course, I want to make sure that all of these are applied with this circular shape. So what I'm going to do here is going to scroll down back to the plugin. And then in here, we have all of these calculations done nicely based on this here. What we can do, of course, let's remove this console log. Or what we need to do is to create a for each loop. Basically, for every data point, we have to run through that. So we're going to say data sets index 0 dot data, and then for every data we're going to say for each. So for every one of them we're going to do this. So basically we have here the data point and the index, and maybe we can even use a for loop because we just only need the index numbers in reality here, nothing else. So just look in that one which you prefer. I'll just do it like that. I'll cut that out, put it in here, and let's see afterwards if everything will work accordingly. Save that here, get this index, and say the index will be based on the data index here. Everything else will work nicely. There we are. So as you can see here, this starts to work nicely. So what we want to do, well, basically two other items I still want to cover is, of course, the points in here. I'm going to remove the tooltip. Let's go in here in the scales, say comma, I'm going to say here plugins tooltip, then I'm going to say enabled equals false. Save that, refresh. Alright, now it's removed. Let's remove this as well because this basically has no real value. As you can see here, it has no real value anymore. So we're going to say comma legend display false. There we are. That looks much better. Let's put in these values in here, and of course as we get, this is a nice thing, the values here of this will get narrow, or it will keep on declining or shrinking if we add up more items. So let's say here 1, 2, and then we have here 3. Save that. Oh, what's going on? Comma, yeah, of course, there. Save, refresh. As you can see here, now it gets more narrow and it looks much nicer. There we are. So what I want to do, and this is really important, is to put in the data labels. Just put in the value here. But what I want is not the value, because you could see here just with the tooltip the value that we had. Let's enable this again. You can see 70 to 120. This is probably not the value I want to show the user, but probably the difference between these two. How big is the gap between them? So let's start to work on it. For this, I'm going to use a very useful plugin. So I'm going to chart.js here, chartjs org, and I'm going to ecosystem. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to scroll down here and look for one of the plugins. And then the plugins we're going to look for here is the data labels plugin. So the plugin that I want is the data labels here. There we are, which supports version 2 till version 4. So we're going to just grab this one here. So I'm just going to getting started, and I'll just grab the source code of that, or specifically what is the JavaScript library. This one here, just grab this. Then what I will do here is just put it here up. Let's see where. There we are. Save that, refresh, and of course right now it's not working yet because we need to activate it. So I'm going to scroll down here, and we have here already this plugins. Here we can add up another plugin, so I'm going to say comma, and we're going to use this chart data labels. This is the specific object that they reference to. As we do this, you can see here we are getting undesirable response. The response here is basically it grabs all the data. So we need to change this. To change this, the data labels plugin has some functionalities that we can use, and one of them is if we got comma here, let's say here data labels. So we're allowed to do this because right now this object has been created because we loaded our chart data labels plugin. But this is basically, this here is considered like an ID here, and later on I will show you a sample how we can change colors of our dots. So data labels here. And then what I want to do here in the data labels, first of all, I won't say here, I would like to have the font color change, and the font color will now be white. If I save this, refresh, now it becomes white. So we have now our white color. Let's remove the next part here is basically the text here, because this is not the text I want. This is basically what we saw in the tooltip as well. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say here formatter. I'm going to use the formatter callback functionality here, and I'm going to grab the value, and we're going to say here the context or anything you want. Basically it's the context. So then what I want to do here is, first of all, let's do here console log and get the value and see what we get. If I open up my developer tab, you can see here we get the object, and you can see here what we get: index 0 and 1 of x. I want to grab those and basically deduct those two from each other, and whatever is left, that will be the value that should be shown in here. So what I'm going to say here, value.x index 0, and then basically I'm going to say here minus value.x index 1. If I do this, we get the value difference, and that should be correct. Let's see if that one should be 50 for USA. Let's cross check this. Go up here, that is 50. Alright, so that is all correct. So what I want to do now is say return this value here. Basically the difference here, we can return that, save, refresh. Alright, next thing, or final item, let's make it bold, and maybe a bigger font size would be acceptable. So what I'm going to say here, and then I'm going to say here font, because I'm going to pinpoint the font object, and then I'm going to say size will be 15 pixels. Save, refresh, there we are. And now let's make it bold finally, and then weight will be bold. Save that, and there we are. Now we have this nicely done. So next video we're going to focus on adjusting something on the scale, playing around with that as well.